Hey everybody, so the title of this video is going to be called Who is Patry Loomis? And Patry Loomis is a name that popped up in my research about what I call the Blonde Ghost Network of Edwin P. Wilson, Frank Terpil, and Ted Shackley. And Patry Loomis was known for being the person who recruited the Green Berets to serve in the Blonde Ghost Network that was basically kind of being ran more so by Edwin P. Wilson. Um, and these Green Berets were actually sent to Libya to actually train Gaddafi forces. And also, some of these Green Berets were associated with actual assassination attempts on Libyan dissidents to the Gaddafi administration or regime. So, Patry Loomis is just a name that pops up that I want to kind of go into detail about, and it's very interesting. Is that he actually has a LinkedIn profile. Um, so first and foremost, let me show you my schematic that I did. So this is the Blonde Ghost Network by me, and Patry Loomis is known for working with Edwin P. Wilson for recruiting the Green Berets like Billy Wow, Luke Thompson, etc., who would actually go to train Gaddafi's forces in Libya. And they're interesting, right? So if you actually look up his LinkedIn profile and Patry Loomis, Longmont, Colorado, and if you scroll all the way down, you see paramilitary operations officer. So he was a staff sergeant in the United States Special Forces in the Army, having served in Okinawa, Japan, and Vietnam. He worked for the CIA. He ends up working for Consultants International, which is a shell company, front company created by Edwin P. Wilson. Uh, he was also working in deep cover for Fairchild Industries in Southeast Asia. But it seems kind of after in the late 70s, before Edwin Wilson was indicted and Frank Terpil were indicted for selling arms to Libya, he kind of got out of the game, and he kind of interestingly went to Ireland, and back to the United States, where he kind of worked for a series of outdoor sporting good companies, which are very interesting. So I mean, I guess he was a Green Beret, so I guess he kind of like outdoors type stuff or whatever. So he did his time in Nam and then with the CIA and working with Edwin Wilson, but kind of got out of the game, it looks like, and kind of just faded away. So it was just very interesting that this Patry Loomis guy actually has a LinkedIn page. um, and it's so interesting. So let's look at some of the stuff about him, right? So this is an article that I've been referencing a lot. Great article. I highly recommend you read it. Called "Selling Out: How an Ex-CIA Agent Made Millions Working for Gaddafi," which was published on April 13th, 1986. And so let's just start at the top, right? So the first mention of Wilson, in other words, Edwin P. Wilson, in the press was in 1977 when a story in the Washington Post erroneously linked him to the bomb murder of Orlando Letelier, the former Chilean ambassador who had become a leading critic of the military dictatorship that overthrew his government. The story identified Wilson as an ex-CIA operative and noted that he reportedly had links to Gaddafi's Libya. What caught the eye of Admiral Stansfield Turner, President Carter's newly appointed CIA director, was that Wilson may have had contact with one or more current CIA employees. When he arrived at the CIA's Langley headquarters, Turner demanded to know who Wilson's contacts were. To his chagrin, just about everybody, it appeared, except him, knew about them. One was William Wiesenberger, whose job was to acquire exotic equipment for the agency, and who had supplied Wilson with 10 miniature detonators of the most advanced design. The second CIA man was Patry Loomis. While operating under deep commercial cover in the Far East, had been discovered only a few months earlier working for Wilson on the side. So, so he was working in deep commercial cover, which corroborates this Fairchild Industries position when he was a sales and marketing manager for the Southeast region for Fairchild Industries, which was a major defense contractor at the time, I believe. So, Wiesenberger told Turner, so Wiesenberger, excuse me, Wiesenberger, Turner was told, had already received a reprimand, and Loomis would probably get the same treatment. That's pretty mild, isn't it? Turner asked. Shouldn't we be getting rid of them? But to his amazement, Turner found a solid wall of opposition from his top deputy, who was a longtime CIA professional, from the chief of the clandestine services, and most surprisingly, from the CIA's inspector general. Wiesenberger had simply been duped into doing a favor for an old friend, and Loomis was just moonlighting, not unheard of among agency personnel. It wasn't such a big deal. CIA relationships were complex. This wasn't the Navy. Turner, however, was looking for a way to make his presence felt. The day of the free-wheeling covert cowboys, as he put it, was over, and he ordered the firing of both Loomis and Wiesenberger. He convened 500 CIA officials in the bubble, the auditorium at the agency's Langley headquarters, and advised them that Wilson was persona non grata. He then sent a book cable, a CIA message to agency stations around the world, warning them not to have any dealings with Wilson. Wilson, Turner said, had been abusing his past affiliations with the agency, and he ordered agency employees to report back to Langley any approaches Wilson may have made. So, so as Turner probed further, he learned of Wilson's close ties to Ted Shackley and Tom Clines. By now, Shackley, as the number two man in the CIA's Directorate of Operations, occupied one of the most prestigious sensitive positions. Um, Turner also knew that if Gerald Ford had defeated Carter in 1976 presidential elections, Shackley would probably be sitting in his chair. In a private meeting, Shackley told Turner that his connection with Wilson was purely social, that while he had spent weekends at Mount Airy, it was mainly because he, his wife, and Wilson's were such good friends. He had never spoken to Wilson about the slightest professional matter. Turner didn't believe him, but the most he felt he could do at the time was to take Shackley out of clandestine operations and appoint him deputy head of the National Intelligence Tasking Center, whose mission to coordinate intelligence gathering sounded more important than it really was. Turner found Clines even less credible. During the investigation of Patry Loomis, Clines had been spotted at a table with Loomis and Wilson in a coffee shop not far from Langley. Clines claimed it was a happenstance encounter. He had, he said, dropped in for a solidarity breakfast, seen the two men and sat with them. Since the inspector general, who came out of the clandestine branch himself, had exonerated Clines of any purposeful wrongdoing, Turner's hands were pretty much tied. In gathering, so let me see here, actually. So there's that one there. Okay, so let me skip down. But to his amusement, Turner found a solid wall of opposition. Where you read that one? Read that one. Read that one. Read that one. Okay, so that's pretty much all we know about Loomis right there, right? But it's just interesting that this was the guy, according to this documentary, who recruited um, Green Berets out of Fort Bragg to go work for Edwin Wilson's clandestine, maybe CIA affiliated, maybe CIA unaffiliated mission in Libya. So let me play this for you.
Heel of palm the nose. Heel of palm the chin. Toe to groin.
These are the Green Berets, the elite commando corps, at their main training center in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. In 1976, Terpil and his cronies were active here, recruiting instructors for Qaddafi. Master Sergeant Luke J. Thompson was approached by one of them.
I was called at my home in Fort Bragg about 7:30 at night by a man who identified himself as Pat Loomis, and he asked if I could was free to go abroad to discuss a contract of work in the intelligence field. And not really knowing who he was or anything about him, I had to lead him on to find out some specifics, because I thought he was from some foreign intelligence trying to subvert me. And he asked me if I could recruit a team of 5 people. So as soon as we got through talking, I called counterintelligence people and made them aware that I was approached by what I felt was a foreign agent. They came over to my house, and the intelligence people told me, said, this is completely legal and above board, so you have no worries, pursue it as you desire, no problems.
With the apparent approval of counterintelligence and his own commanding officer at Fort Bragg, Luke Thompson took a squad of 5 men with 800 pounds of explosives to Libya. Shortly after his arrival, he was taken to a desert palace where Americans were priming ashtrays, books, even desks to explode on contact. Would you ever use these devices in conventional warfare?
No, it's not something that you would use as a device against an organized force.
What would you use these devices for?
Terrorist activities, on unsuspected civilians.
And what's interesting is that this is a photo of Patry Loomis. So this is likely the man who actually recruited Luke Thompson to go work for Frank Terpil and Edwin Wilson alongside other Green Berets in Libya, who kind of is just living his life as a retired guy, you know. So it's just very fascinating history. So it kind of just ended right there. Yeah, just kind of living his best life. So yeah, that's pretty much this video right here. All right, bye.